Hi, welcome to Building. This is Good Questions with Anh Will. That's me. We got a great question about brewing iced coffee. This is different than making cold brew, right? Cold brew is a low temperature, room temperature brewing method that requires hours and hours of steeping to make it. This one you can brew in the same amount of time as a regular cup of drip coffee. So what I have here is Building's summer blend. So I've got my ground coffee here, trusty Hario V60. Give the filter a quick rinse. This time I'm not rinsing it into my vessel because I'll be putting ice in there. So this ice pour over method is really not much different than a normal pour over, except you replace part of the water that you'll be brewing with ice. So I'm going to use 1/3 of that weight. If I'm brewing 24 grams of coffee for 400 grams of total liquid, I need about 100 grams of ice. Will leave me with 300 grams to brew with. If, like me, your freezer doesn't have the best smell, I like to rinse off the ice with some fresh drinking water first. And then reweigh it to make sure you still have at least 100 grams of coffee. Shake it flat just a little bit. And this is ground about the same as a regular pour over. And I like to fill my kettle a little more than halfway, because that will maintain a stable temperature while you brew. Bloom phase. Start your timer. And just make sure all the grounds are evenly wet. There are different opinions about how much water to bloom with. I'll leave that up to you. Just make sure everything is nice and saturated. Those bubbles means water hitting dry spots. So we want to make sure we get rid of all those bubbles before we actually start our brew. I'm going to give it about 40 seconds. Then just start pouring in the middle, out to the edges, and then swirl back into the middle, and finish adding your water at a steady pace. Those bubbles means we're still hitting dry spots, so I'm just going to give it a little bit more of a swirl. And try to keep the water flow steady so it doesn't disturb the coffee grounds in the bottom of your dripper. I'm going to stop once I hit 300 grams, and that will give me my total for 400 grams to the 24 grams of coffee. So the benefits of this method versus cold brew is that this method tastes more similar to a hot drip coffee of the same beans, compared to a cold brew where all of the acidity is muted and all the flavors are kind of muddy together. And personally, I like the acidity of a nice coffee, so I want to brew iced coffee this way. And this should finish roughly around the same amount of time as the hot brew, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. And then you want to stir this up and see how much of the ice you can get to melt into the brew, because that completes the ratio. You can also pay attention to the bed after you brewed. A nice, even, flat bed with all of the fine particles pushed to the side so they don't clog the brew. Give it a stir. Frosty cups for a frosty beverage. And coffee always tastes better when you share.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Enjoy.